Hey folks, these days it seems that in our global culture there are a lot of messages, both overt and implied, about seeking one's own happiness regardless of the consequences. However, I think it's obvious that given the amount of depression and anxiety in the world today, that seeking happiness without regard to what damage you might do if you don't consider others, and without having any defined value structure to protect your emotional state, is just going to lead to bad places that none of us should want to go. I think much better than to seek the impulsive gratification of our own desires is to cultivate an attitude of maturity. Now, I grant you, I'm only 28 years old, and to this day, I still often have no idea what I'm doing in life. But I have learned a few things along the way, particularly because when you live with a severe disability, as I do, it teaches you to grow up quite quickly, because if you don't, you won't make it through the day. Now, maturity doesn't mean that you stop having fun or that you become a boring old person before your time. What it means is that you get into a mindset where you have a greater degree of control over your own behavior. Some examples of this would be knowing that not every issue needs to be argued over. This was a big flaw of my youth that I have overcome. When I was a teenager, I would get into petty and trivial arguments over just about everything because I had this constant need to be right. But over time, I realized that to cultivate a sense of peace and the ability to get along with your fellow human beings is far more important than being right, even if you are. This also doesn't mean that you never argue over anything, as I do have a limited set of moral principles from which I will not be moved. Another aspect of maturity is to realize that not everyone shares the exact same views as you do, and that that's all right. Diversity of views is important to the world because if everyone thought exactly the same, we would be unable to come up with innovative solutions to large problems. So I, for one, am quite happy when I meet somebody who thinks differently to me, because it's always an opportunity to learn, provided that that person is willing to engage in open dialogue. That's another important part about being mature. In order to really solve problems, you have to be willing to talk to people and negotiate attitudes. Because if you are unwilling to compromise or bend in your views, then eventually what happens is you isolate yourself from the people around you and you become an outcast. Now, because of my disability, I am largely a social outcast in that I live on the fringe of society because I'm not able to get around and interact with the world like a normal person would. And I can tell you, as somebody who experiences these things on a daily basis, it's not something anyone should ever willingly impose on themselves. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this short little musing on the topic of maturity. And if you enjoy my content and would like to support me, there are ways you can do it in the description of this video. For now, farewell.